Hi, in this video I'm going to be going through a seated shoulder internal rotation stretch PAILs and rails with the arms supported. So in this video I'll be using a bench to demonstrate. You could also use a wall, so setting the arm up against the wall works very well for this setup I'm actually going to demo. But I'm using a bench because I also find it most comfortable and it gives me a lot of variables to play with even when I'm in the actual setup. If I need to move around and adjust, I find this setup works very well, and also when it comes to producing a lot of force for the PAILs contraction and the rails, I feel quite safe and secure in this position to be able to do that. So in terms of setting up, I'm seated, I've got my arm again on the bench, okay? I can have my elbow supported as so, I could even choose to drop it off. Now, internal rotation being this movement, I want to take it into end range somewhere being down here. So, when I'm down here, I can play with degrees of having the elbow opened or closed. I can play with elbow rotation. I can also play with how much I'm opening back here. So, in terms of turning my upper body around and over, I'm closing this angle inside here, and this will also change how things are being stretched and opened up. So I'm looking to target the capsule posteriorly of the joint. So I'm looking for a deep sort of opening / stretch sensation back here. I'm trying to avoid any sort of pinching, closing angle pain on the front side of the shoulder as I explore this setup. So when I'm here, this elbow, I'm also, if you notice, resting on my knee. I can then use this knee to push into this elbow to kind of lock in and really apply a bit more pressure if I want to. If I feel I'm putting too much pressure, I can just use this knee to back off a little bit. So I can really play a little bit with where this leg is, how much I'm using this leg to then apply pressure. And then once I've found a good line of tension, I will just hold this position for the prescribed time. Then I'll run through a quick example of my PAILs and rails. So for the PAILs contraction, holding everything like a statue, I'm going to begin to contract what would allow me to do this movement. So beginning at 20%, I'm thinking very deep at a joint level, and gradually building, working my way to 40. Still keeping it quite deep. From there, I'll gradually build to 60. And as I'm building the efforts, I'm also getting a little bit more superficial with everything I'm starting to engage with. So as I get to 80, I'm really starting to think about using all the muscles around that joint to help facilitate with this isometric contraction. And then I will take it to my safest, greatest, or prescribed effort, hold, and then afterwards the rails contraction will be the opposite. So I'm trying to hold this position as best as possible, even promote more. So I want to internally rotate now. I can lose the arm for a moment just to also assess how well I can hold this position. And then I'm holding my rails contraction also for the prescribed time. Then afterwards, I reset hand back on. I can play again with those variables to get slightly deeper into the stretch. So I could turn my body a little bit more now over to close the front angle and open up the back angle. I could play with maybe opening or closing the elbow now. I could play with that elbow rotation, and even with the wrist. Bending the wrist on particular positions may change a lot how that sensation feels in the joint. And then I would just hold for the prescribed time before going into my second round.